Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Estock. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to that clay kit that we passed out, and I'm going to go over some tips and tricks for setting up your workspace at home and for cleaning up while you're working at home. So let's get started. Alright, so here is one of the kits. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. We have your clay kit items and safety. So you'll have an inventory and you'll have some tips on preparing your workspace at home and some clay safety rules, so that should be in there. I also sent you guys home with a piece of PVC pipe which will be used for rolling out clay, a small piece of canvas to work on at home, a couple of tongue depressors. We're going to actually cut these and sand them to be able to make some different pattern tools, a brush and slip, and then a PVC card that we're also going to be able to cut and make some cool patterns and tools out of, and then an orange stick which has a pointed edge for cutting clay, and then you have another edge which you can use to make some patterns and for some sculpting. And then each of you should have received a block of clay as well, and you have your box. Another thing that should have been in your kit is also an additional plastic bag. And if you did not get one of those, make sure that you just use like an extra trash bag from home. You're going to need 2 bags. You're going to need one for your project and one for to store your clay and recycle your clay in. All right, so I'm going to get started with setting up and then go over how to clean up as well. All right, so one of the things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a surface at home to be able to work on your artwork. A kitchen table, a desk, something with a smooth surface is ideal. You want to make sure that if you can be in a room with no carpet, that would be good. You may also work outside if you want to. You just want to make sure that you're keeping clay off the floor. Depending on the working surface, you may want to cover it up to protect it. So I have an old piece of fabric that I use to put down if I want to protect the surface of the table when I'm working. You can also use a board or a piece of wood to be able to work on your clay. That way if you need to pick it up and move it, that works as well. So I also gave you a canvas that you're going to work on. And then I also asked you to start saving some food containers. I gave you a small container of slip, but you're going to want to get a larger container. This container is not going to last very long. And so you can actually add it to a bigger container. Make sure that you have a lid for it. And you're going to put your clay scraps. Some of the smaller clay scraps you'll put in there so you can start making your own slip. You're also going to want a container for water, and then I would recommend just having something with your tools in it so that you can grab them quickly and easily as well. So you want to just make sure that you get set up, and that's basically all of your stuff that you would want to set up. Make sure that you're not eating or drinking around this area as well. Okay, so then I'm going to go through some clay cleanup procedures with you. Alright, so clay cleanup procedures. A couple things you're going to want to also have are maybe a couple of old rags. That way if you need to really quickly wipe your hands off to be able to go do something, make sure you have a couple of these, okay? So we're going to clean up. So the first thing we want to do is put away our clay. So you want to go ahead and put your clay back in that bag that you're using for recycling your clay. Make sure that you compress it all together. And then if your clay is starting to get a little bit dry because you worked with it, I would squeeze just a few drops, maybe like 10 drops of water in there, because we want to make sure that we keep our clay soft. This is also a good time to check your bag, make sure it doesn't have any holes in it, and if it does, place it inside of another bag. Before I clean up, I'm going to go ahead and roll up my canvas. I don't want to put away wet canvas, it will get moldy. So go ahead and put that away. So now you want to make sure that you clean up your tools. So you're going to use your water container. Sometimes a container like this might be a little bit easier to clean into. But you're going to use your water container, and you're going to want to make sure that you wash off all of your tools in this water container. Do not wash your tools off in the sink. We do not want clay going down the sink. So just use your sponge. Make sure your sponge is relatively clean. Okay. Also with your roller, same thing. You can see I got clay all over the roller. So go ahead and clean off my roller. Clean it off with your sponge. And then as your sponge gets dirty, clean it off into this water container. Again, it might be better if you had a bowl or something a little bit bigger. But it just depends what you have at your house. Okay, and then you're also going to want to make sure you squeeze out your sponge, get all the clay out of your sponge, get all that extra water out, put that aside as well. Use your rag to dry off all of your tools. You do not want to put wet tools away. They will get moldy. So make sure that you're cleaning off all your tools, and then like I said, make sure you squeeze out as much water out of your sponge as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and put my tools. You can leave your tools in a container, you can put them back in your box. It's kind of up to you. Okay? So the next thing I want to do too is with the canvas, if you have any pieces of clay on your canvas, first thing you want to do is go ahead and fold up your canvas, and if there's any little pieces of clay in there, let's pretend like this was my big slip container and all my slip was in here. I would go ahead and shake any small pieces of clay off into that container before I put it away. Okay, so that way you're going to start getting little pieces of clay and be able to make more slip. Okay, same thing with this fabric that you used on the table. You want to go ahead and fold this up, and then you want to carry it over to a trash can and go dump it over a trash can. So this is my canvas that we folded up over on the table over there with the clay little pieces in it. I'm just going to bring it over here to the trash can and just open it up and just make sure that any little pieces of clay fall into the trash. Again, do not shake it up. We don't want to breathe in any of this dust. The next thing that you want to do is just take a damp cloth, and you want to go ahead and wipe down your table with a damp cloth. Make sure that you are never blowing the dust or sweeping it. You always want to make sure that you're using something wet to clean up with. And again, if you have little pieces of clay, just make sure you go and put them in the trash. Do not put them down in the sink. Okay? The last thing you want to do with this water, what I like to do is I like to stir it up a little bit, and then I'm going to carry it outside and go dump it outside in the plants somewhere. Do not dump this down your sink. The more often you put clay down your sink, it will actually clog up your pipes. So we're going to go outside, dump out our canvas, and dump out our water. So I'm out here by the tree. I got my clay water. I'm going to just swirl it around a little bit and then go ahead and dump this out here. This is going to water a tree, and it's also out of the walkway where nobody is going to walk through it. If there's any clay in the bottom, you can just put a little bit more water in and swirl it around if you want to, or just leave it. It's fine if you have a little bit in there. You're just going to use that for water. All right, so just a couple more reminders. Remember, you have this worksheet here that came in your kit, and you want to make sure that you go over that. Remember, the dust is a concern. We don't want to have a lot of dust. You guys are going to be working with clay very minimally at home, so you will not be creating very much. But it is important that you're aware of that. You want to make sure that if any clay scraps fall on the floor, that you pick them up right away. You don't want them to dry on the floor and then get stepped on, and that's going to create dust. Again, make sure you're always cleaning up with water, either a wet rag or a sponge. Make sure you're not sweeping, shaking table coverings, blowing dust. That's going to get it into the air. You don't want to breathe that in. Remember, never put clay down the sink. It will clog the drain, so make sure that you find a space outside to dump that out. Like I said, a grassy area, someplace where people aren't walking. Sometimes if I have a lot of clay in my water, I'll even just let my water settle overnight, and then I can dump the stuff off the top, and I can even let the bottom of it dry out in a sunny spot as well. Make sure that you're using the tools for the correct purposes. If you damage your wood tools, you know, those are the only ones you have for right now. Make sure that you're cleaning them after each time you use them and drying them off so they're not getting moldy. If your canvas gets wet, where did our canvas go? It's here somewhere. If your canvas gets wet, hang it out to dry somewhere, okay? Don't put it away wet because it's going to get moldy as well. So make sure you're not putting away stuff that's wet. And then remember, this is your toolkit for the semester. It may even carry you through for the end of the year. I am going to supply you with more clay. We will have open studio days to drop off projects and to pick up clay, and I will let you know what those days are on the Remind app, so make sure that you signed up for that. And then the biggest thing is don't let your clay dry out. Remember, if your clay dries out, you can't do anything for class. So if it does start to dry out, you need to take it out of the bag, put it in another bag, squeeze a little bit of water into it, just small amounts of water at a time. Don't put in a ton, you're going to end up making mud, and then you're not going to be able to use that either. Remember, you may want to get yourself a squirt bottle. I was going to see if I could find mine. I just have like a, this was like a hairspray bottle, and I just cleaned it out and put some water in there. So you're gonna wanna get maybe a squirt bottle because you can actually mist your clay instead of squeezing a lot of water over it. And then I think that's about it. Remember not to eat or drink while you're working with your clay. And then most of all, you guys, I'm just excited to finally work with clay and finally have some fun with you guys. I know you guys signed up for ceramics class, and the most important thing to me is that we're making ceramics. So I'm so excited that we finally get to use our computers basically as a camera to just see each other, and we're going to be working with clay. The last thing that I would suggest is that I know you guys are going to have your Chromebooks nearby. I would suggest that you get some plastic wrap or a plastic bag, or I think plastic wrap would be the best because you can still see your keys. And again, keep some clean rags nearby, probably wet, so you can wipe off your hands and stuff like that as well. If you are going to be near your computer, like I said, put some plastic wrap, get a keyboard cover. You know, like I said, a clear plastic bag works just fine. You know, you can even tape it to keep it in place if you need to, just for class. So again, I'm excited, guys. We're going to start working with clay next week. So I can't wait. See you soon.